I am Steve.
I think first reactions are always a little bit extreme in one direction or another. How did you feel seeing audiences react to that first trailer?
We knew this game represents so many different things to so many different people. And, we knew that with, whatever we let out with, there was going to be strong opinions across the spectrum.
No, it sucks cock. It sucks cock so deep. The bell end's wearing your appendix as a little hat.
It's just a kids movie. What did you want from a kids movie? Kids movies don't have to be serious, bro. Not everything can be William Shatner. It's a video game adaptation. What do you want? I found it funny, so it was good. It made $1 bajillion. Bruh is yapping. Where's your $250 million movie? If you switch your brain off, it's hilarious. If you're attempting to type any of these statements in my comment section, stop, step away from your computer and return to your nearest zoo. You are the reason the average IQ of the Minecraft movie audience is lower than the average IQ of the Snow White audience, and the Snow White audience was just empty chairs. Kids entertainment being formative is the most important entertainment there is. The declining quality of modern adults is evidence of the declining quality of parenting, ergo of childhood, which largely stems from terrible children's entertainment. We all basically understand that stuffing a small child with Big Macs is bad for its body. It's not a stretch to imagine that pumping its head full of liquid AIDS might be bad for its brain. That dismissive excuse-making now greets damned near every major Hollywood release in any genre. Oh, it's just a kid's movie. Oh, it's just a fairy tale. Oh, it's just a superhero movie. Oh, it's just a dinosaur movie, it's just a blockbuster, leaves you wondering just where in the arts we are now allowed to expect, art. In my second channel review of the Minecraft movie, which I can summarize with the words, "It's like being lobotomized by the entire special ed class," I hypothesized that at least some of the audience weren't really watching the movie at all. What they were enjoying was a chain of visual reminders of games they enjoyed playing in the past, meaning a sizable part of the film's success is attributable to the imagination the movie itself scorns. I described this as the best case scenario, and it's still a damning verdict on the movie, on cinema, and on the audience that enjoys this shit unironically. Maybe it's a backhanded compliment to those who've spent so long arguing, rightly, that video games are art. The movie doesn't even try to compete. It just plagiarizes the form and vampirizes the joy. Hey kids, this is a creeper. Remember that time you and your little friends got blown up by a creeper in that game that we, the movie makers, had nothing to do with? That was fun, wasn't it? You could be at home right now doing that for free, but instead you paid us money, or more accurately, your parents did, to remind you how much fun you used to have, you fucking saps. But even in this best case scenario, the theater's job is to take the statement, "video games are art," and remove the art bit. Any non-gamers in the audience will watch the Minecraft movie and be reassured that they were right to dismiss games generally as dumb, meaningless kid shit. If they're responsible parents, they might even reconsider letting their little brats waste time and money on that dumb kid shit in the first place. Why did the pigs want gold, they'll ask? Why did the green penis explode? Why does the fat man sing about lava chicken? Why is the sheep pink, little Jimmy? Why is everything square? Why does nothing make sense? Is this video games? I guess this is video games.
I don't get it.
That's because you're thinking like a dad. Minecraft, it don't got no winner. It don't got no objective. You just building and seeing if other things can come and knock it down. Now, let's click on the inventory and let's filter through the skins.
Yes, I'm getting it now. You are?
No.
The message of the Minecraft movie, no word of a lie, it's the film's textual and meta conclusion, is that in-game creativity is basically worthless. Stop wasting your time on the video games. Video games are for fat, smelly cowards, says the Minecraft movie. Be brave. Make something meaningful in the real world. Go outside and touch grass, say the creators of the Minecraft movie. One of the most worthless, meaningless dumps ever flushed into the turd bowl of the real world. Fuck it, I'm a video game writer. I might sue the Minecraft movie for defamation, libel, reputational damage, crimes against humanity, whatever. Lawyers in chat, please hit me up. We'll be filing a class action on behalf of all people with taste.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
If the theme of modern society seems to be regression, movies, video games, even novels reverting to older and worse forms of themselves, that's because in far too many cases, it's exactly what's happening. But this tale of woe is not universal. Progress is being made, experiences improved in other areas, and that's where this video's sponsor comes in. Until recently, the last time I used the Opera web browser was when it came pre-installed on the Nintendo Wii. Halcyon days indeed. But things have changed a bit since then, and mostly for the better. Opera's latest update, the Opera 1 R2 browser, released late last year, is exactly what I was after. Its integrated music player allows you to control music without switching between tabs or windows. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you can stream from 6 major platforms and even detach and move the player any way you want. You can pop out videos and move them in much the same way. Hey look, it's me! You can set and customize browser themes, including animated backgrounds, browser sounds, colors, shaders, and more. Working on multiple documents, like comparing research notes or drafting 2 parts of a project at once? Split screen is for you. Simply drag your tab down and voila. Opera's intuitive tab islands helps you keep things organized by allowing you to group tabs by context. You just expand or collapse whenever you want. Opera's tab traces, a subtle underline telling you which tabs you've viewed most recently, are a real time saver. The darker the underline, the more recently you viewed the tab. It being 2025, Opera naturally comes packaged with a built-in AI tool in the form of Aria, which you can ask any question directly in the handy command line. Just hit a quick shortcut to open it. Aria can even generate images from scratch with just a single prompt, or analyze whatever image you upload. You can get Opera today at the link in my description. I know, old habits die hard, but really, is there any better time to make a change? Browse your way down to that description box, hit that link, and give Opera a try today.
Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Now I suggest you back up your soul if you haven't already, because Steve here is about to suck it straight out through your anus. We begin before the beginning with an exposition prologue that attempts to euthanize your brain before the torment begins. We get a narration from Jack the Steve Black, who tells us that the overworld is full of, and I quote, millions and billions of, and again I quote, epic tales, none of which made it into the movie.
This one is all mine.
This is a lie. As will become clear very quickly, this tale doesn't belong to anybody in particular, because it isn't really a tale and there is no one for it to belong to. As you'll know from the posters and such, what we have in this movie is 4 quadrants and a reference. A young boy for the young boys, a teenage girl for the teenage girls, a man-child from the 1980s for white people over the age of 35, and a lady who my notes call Happy Black Woman, who is there in a bid to trick unsuspecting black people into thinking they might like this movie. 4-quadrant casting is industry speak for demographic appeal. Once upon a time, the audience was expected to relate to the characters in a movie, but since creating characters is difficult and time-consuming work and their presence no longer impacts box office performance, we've basically junked character as a concept. Now, the audience is expected to look at people on the posters and think, hey, that person looks like me. I guess it's safe for me to see the movie. Another term for this is creative bankruptcy. bankruptcy. Occasionally, a film will also chuck in a wildcard actor, otherwise known as an oh fuck it's you again actor. An oh fuck it's you again actor is somebody with no specific appeal to any one racial or sexual group, but who's been deemed to have universal appeal for some reason. Sometimes this reason is that they are ethnically ambiguous and competently dull, so they tick several boxes at once, which explains the career of Pedro Pascal. Sometimes it's that they're very old and have previously played very popular characters in very popular old movies, so the audience will like seeing them in the movie whether or not they liked being in the movie. This explains the continued employment of Harrison Ford. Sometimes it's because they have the voice of God, which affords them universal prestige. They sound authoritative and they class up even the most classless movie, see Morgan Freeman, Anthony Hopkins. Then there is, of course, the twink category of men and women who look young enough to be the boys and girls Hollywood types would quite like to fuck, but who are technically old enough for this to be legal. Timothy Chalamet, Tom Holland, Zendaya, and so on. The suspicion is that this class would be bigger if Hollywood types didn't try to drug and fuck so many of them before it was legal. Substance abuse just ruins your looks. Then there are actors the universe, or the people who run it, have determined are cool, whether or not they actually are. Keanu Reeves, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Robert Downey Jr., Jason Momoa. And finally, there is the category that exists because very boring aliens in expensive suits have seen actors do what their computers call comedy, that produces the strange human noise called laughter, and so they have been classified as funny. For reference, Seth Rogen, Bill Murray, Will Ferrell, and Jack Black. The presence of an oh fuck it's you actor is the most reliable indicator of a movie's inherent quality and substance, or rather the lack thereof. By which I mean that if an oh fuck it's you actor has an important role in a movie, the odds are that movie has been shat out by somebody on the sweet corn diet. It comes out as it goes in, bright yellow and completely empty. That the Minecraft movie is fronted by arguably two oh fuck it's you actors, Jack Black and Jason Momoa, who was hitherto cool but is increasingly becoming funny, well, that ought to inform you that the Minecraft movie is an exceptionally empty void. The third biggest void in the universe, in fact, after the Boots void in the number 2 slot, and the collective minds of the Minecraft movie's 5 writers, who are all tied for the number 1 slot. Rounding out the top 5 list are Avatar 2 in 4th and Avatar in 5th. Honorable mentions to the last 17 MCU projects, to Rebel Moon, and to the Monsterverse, which sucks. I'm still right, you're still Stop grooming those kids on Reddit and come brigade me again, I dare you. So when Jack Black tells you this is all his story, Steve's story, he's lying to you. This movie doesn't have a story, it's just a rapid-fire succession of Jack Black skits in which other actors are sometimes on the screen. The prologue opens with a young Steve attempting to enter a mine for some reason.
My name is Steve, and as a child, I yearn for the mines.
The reason is that children yearning for mines was a popular meme when this movie entered production. Memes in Hollywood movies are another sure sign that they are creatively bankrupt. They originate from middle-aged writers asking their cousins' children what's hip these days, and they tend to fall flatter than Brie Larson's washboard ass when they finally hit the screen, because for a vast majority of memes, these days refers to a period of time not exceeding 2 weeks. The problem, you see, is that it's very difficult to determine which aspects of current pop culture will still be pop culture by the time you reference them in your movie. I think in Minecraft as a qualifier, in a sentence like, I want to behead Minecraft movie director Jared Hess and shove his eyes through his rectum to show him what it's like to watch his movie, in Minecraft, remains more current than the children yearn for the mines. Despite yearning for the mines because mining is his dream for reasons, Child Steve is rebuffed by a cranky old miner because kids don't belong in mines, so off he goes to grow up. Now I'm going to do this a few times throughout this video because it's genuinely the only way I can make this at all interesting. There are in fact 2 cuts of this movie currently in the hands of the Pirates of the Caribbean. There is this cut, the theatrical cut, the one they somehow thought was worth releasing to the world. And then there is the working cut. The working cut came out on a dodgy Russian website the same day as the theatrical cut released. It's a slightly earlier version of the movie, one where the visual effects aren't quite finished, which is why it looks better than the officially released version, but besides its charming visuals, it is very useful because it shows us where cuts and changes were made to scenes, to dialogue, and to story. For example, in the working cut, a now adult Steve is working a dead-end job, but he has a dream. He dreams of making a place called Steve's Resort. The working cut's first Jack Black song comes a mere 1 minute and 40 seconds into the movie, and it sees him pitching Steve's Resort to a bunch of boring, old and boring and vaguely official types who are not impressed by his antics. The working cut does not specify what Steve's adult job actually is, he just laments,
It was the kind of life that made a man stare into his potatoes.
but it does establish that he has a quite specific creative vision, and this serves as setup for a later beat. When, in the Minecraft overworld, we see that he has made Steve's world, this is the payoff. By establishing a definite dream in the boring world, we see that the Minecraft overworld is the place where dreams come true, because look, he actually made it. But the theatrical cut thought that was altogether too competent and intelligent for its target audience. You know what chimps are like, they're easily startled by things like creativity and imagination. So they cut out the musical number and they cut out the reference to Steve's Resort, and instead, in the theatrical version, he says,
I wasn't meant to sell doorknobs.
and like the movie of which it's a part, this doesn't work on a number of levels. The working cut established a dream to show the overworld as the place where dreams are real, and that is better than the theatrical. The working cut doesn't tell us what Steve's job is, because that isn't really relevant to anything at all. The working cut does explain why he's looking at his potatoes and why his potatoes,
Save the dream.
Yes, this is a thing that happens. He sculpts a mine entrance out of his potatoes and decides it's time to dream again for the first time in like 40 years or reasons. But you lose all of that in the theatrical cut. You do though learn that he sells doorknobs, and that's shit.
So I geared up to dig deeper and find out what I've been missing.
Yeah, the movie kind of forgot that he's never actually been digging in the mines. It's fine though, we're a whole 2 minutes in, alright? It's completely fair that the movie forgot what it told us 5 seconds ago. Steve sidesteps past the old miner, which is something he totally couldn't have done when he was younger and less fat, and with about 30 seconds digging, he has found not one, but 2 McMuffins.
He takes his pickaxe, Steve does, when he returns to the mines as an adult, the exact same mines, so the exact same miner. And he hits the stone on the wall and it breaks up, and then in like 2 seconds he is able to discover 2 mysterious artifacts completely at random. One of them is this sort of glass box, and the other one is the Tesseract. And it will be referred to as such for the rest of the movie.
This is a very old mine. It's been here for untold decades. It's been excavated harder and more often than a 70s porn star's aged vagina. So naturally, nobody has discovered the Tesseract until now, even though it took Steve about 5 seconds of mining, because reasons. As for why there are 2 McMuffins, that's because the writers are incompetent. Like Your Mum, very few movies need more than 1 McMuffin, even if, like Your Mum, they really want more. Also like Your Mum, these writers really don't give much of a shit about the thing they've created, and they have incredibly low standards, and so here we are. 2 McMuffins and a botched abortion.
I mined my brains out.
And that is apt. Steve puts the Tesseract into the redundant Tesseract sheath, and the Tesseract opens a portal into another dimension, the Overworld.
This place blew my mind.
But you just told us you don't have one of those.
I mined my brains out.
Now you might think this tremendous discovery, this beautiful place and all the wonders within it would elicit, well, wonder. You know, like the time you first played Minecraft. And if you really like Minecraft, every time you start a new Minecraft. I sadly have never spent much time in Minecraft myself, but it must be pretty good because the birth rate is collapsing. This wonder should be multiplied by the fact that this is, in the movie, a real place. It's a real world. It's another dimension. It's not a video game. Moreover, it's a real world that essentially confers upon Steve magical powers. He's basically God in this dimension, except unlike God, he isn't high, so he won't make horrendous mistakes, like the second law of thermodynamics and also Australia. This movie sometimes threatens to say things about the magic of creation. It has a whole sandbox world in which to play. The point of Minecraft is that there are as many stories as you can imagine, but the movie fundamentally misunderstands imagination because it doesn't have any, and so it's incapable of eliciting wonder. Steve just continues his boring narration as we get a montage of him building a house, and then another house, and then a house made of pink wool. This is really funny because it's pink. Pink is a funny color. Have you laughed yet? Hold on. Let's just linger on the shot and have Steve wiggle his fingers around awkwardly in silence, just so you've all got time to laugh.
Life was good, except at night, which happens about every 20 minutes.
This little bit here, the night sequence, isn't in the working cut, because back then they thought it might be worth saving the first nighttime sequence for a dramatically important moment in the story. Evidently, they thought that ran the risk of creating feelings in the audience, so instead, they decided it would be safer to spoil everything in the prologue so that we don't have to switch our brains on later. Steve then decides, arbitrarily because now is as good a time as any, that he needs a friend with whom to share this wonderful new life. Rather than going back into the real world through the portal that remains open and that anyone can walk in and out of, which the movie mostly forgets, instead a wolf spawns in front of him. Wolves are not naturally friendly to humans, and so conveniently the movie spawns a bone in front of Steve, which he feeds to the wolf, and so now it's his friend and it's called Dennis. This movie does practically nothing to establish mechanics, but this is the first of 2 times that bones conveniently spawn on the floor when somebody needs to tame a wolf, so I guess that's consistent. All this bullshit is taking the place of one of the most enjoyable parts of Minecraft, as I've said. The part where it takes your virginity better than any skanky old vagina ever could. Emerging into a brand new world, exploring it, seeing it all for the first time, learning about it, discovering it, taking in the beauty, realizing the sun is setting, wondering what's going to happen at nighttime, hearing strange noises, getting mobbed by enemies. You know, all the stuff that actually gives the game this wonderful, naturalistic narrative structure. The thing that actually makes playing it an emotionally as well as a visually stimulating experience. We skip all of that though because the movie assumes, and the box office suggests it assumes rightly, which is your fault, you fucking bastards, that the audience already knows all of this and it's not interested in watching somebody else play Minecraft. The audience just wants to see all the stuff as quickly as possible so they can point and clap like fucking seals, which is going to make it totally redundant when a bunch of similarly shallow entities with none of Jack Black's charisma do all of this again in a few minutes' time.
Actually, it was a wolf that wanted to eat me.
And then this super angry wolf showed up.
Fuck me, we almost accidentally introduced an emotion into this narrative art form. We can't be having that. With his trusty Dennis in tow, Steve tells us,
"Together we built endless masterpieces."
Yeah, it's a shame we don't get to see any of those in the movie. Back when I had friends, I did play a little bit of Minecraft with them a couple of times. I roped my friend Alex into helping me build Barad-dur, complete with lava waterfalls, while his girlfriend and our other flatmate, being girls, built a boring functional house with a lovely roof garden and a pig pen and flowers. While they were off foraging, we rerouted one of our lava rivers through their horrible female domestic bliss, and we blew up their roof garden with dynamite for good measure. gender. Truly, there is no difference between the sexes. But in the Minecraft movie, with the one, and even then arguable, exception of Steve's world, which in the theatrical version is no longer a payoff, but just a thing we see once and never again, nobody builds anything remotely interesting or creative. There's hardly any mining or crafting in this Minecraft movie.
Life was perfect, and the years simply flew by.
Yep, you heard that correctly. Years have passed. His beard has changed color, so you know that years have indeed elapsed. At no point in these years has anybody else followed him through the portal, and at no point has he gone back. This will be important later, kind of.
Until one day I came across some strange ruins.
That was from the working cut, but oh shit, how can our target audience know that he also came across the chest? It's only on the screen. We can't trust that they're actually watching the movie. They could all be on their phones. We'd better make sure they noticed.
Until one day I came across some strange ruins and a conveniently placed chest.
Thank goodness, now we're all on the same page. It'll never come up again. And so with...
Flint and steel.
It's probably a meme, I don't know. But with flint and steel, he opens a new portal. And Dennis runs into it because Dennis doesn't want to be in this movie any longer than he has to be, and Steve follows him.
Turns out, we just opened a portal to a totally new dimension.
5 minutes. We are 5 minutes and 19 seconds into the movie, and we already have 3 dimensions. This new dimension, the Nether, is mostly populated by pigs. The pigs are evil and they have no joy or creativity. They just want gold. We know all of this because Steve tells us it in his narration.
There was no joy or creativity at all, just a mindless lust for gold.
But why? Why do they want gold? What do they use it for? They don't wear it, they don't build with it, there's no gold anywhere on screen at any point in the movie, even though we're explicitly told that they've already mined all the gold out of the Nether.
These piglin brutes had mined this realm into oblivion.
Did they eat it? Is there some nether bank they deposit it all into? Has it all been destroyed by tariffs? They don't seem to spend it on anything, so why? Why do they want the gold? Aha. But have you considered, you abnormally curious Minecraft movie viewer, that they want it because their leader once lost a talent competition called Nether's Got Talent? Oh boy, do I wish I was lying, but we'll get to that later. The piglins are indeed led by an evil pig called... It really doesn't matter. You will forget every name that isn't Steve 2 seconds after they're introduced. We'll just call her fucking, I don't know, Emperor Pigpatine. That'll do. That's somehow less cringe than the Minecraft movie. Emperor Pigpatine is voiced by one of Taika Waititi's creatures from Hunt for the Wilderpeople and Thor Ragnarok. Rachel House is her name. Rachel House has a very specific set of skills, and voice acting is not among them.
Who are you and why are you so round?
Aha! So you might be thinking, she's going to learn that there are other dimensions, the real world dimension, and there's a portal that leads to it. We must be doing a Tron Legacy / Ant-Man 3 kind of thing. Emperor Pigpatine is going to try and lead her army through the portal to our real world. But no, you'd be wrong. At no point does anybody in the Overworld or the Nether give a single solitary fuck that there is a portal leading to a dimension full of round people, which is also full of resources. Emperor Pigpatine never investigates Steve's origin. She doesn't even evince any curiosity about it beyond the line she has just spoken. The movie proceeds as though she is totally unaware of it. Because, as derivative as that hypothetical Tron-style plot would have been, it's still too creative for this movie about the power of creation. So instead, Emperor Pigpatine wants the Tesseract because she can use the Tesseract to create a sky laser that'll darken the overworld and allow her pigs to mine it for gold for no established reason. For the moment, they can't do that because if they go out in the sun, they zombify. Except that later we learn that they have a potion that lets them go out into the sun without zombifying. This is the first Emperor Pigpatine has learned of Steve or the Tesseract, even though we'll later learn that she has spies all over the overworld and some sort of computer that tells her when the Tesseract is near. later. We also learn that her magic staff can summon the Tesseract directly to her, but she doesn't use it because that's for later too. The pigs imprison Steve and Dennis and then do nothing at all with the Tesseract, despite them having everything they need to enact their evil plan right this second.
With this orb, I will pillage the overworld and all its gold will be ours!
Yes, you'll try to do that, sure, but that's also later. Instead, they continue to do nothing long enough for Steve and Dennis to escape and steal the Tesseract back. I said that's later. Steve and Dennis run back to the Nether portal.
They get out of the cells, and the dog somehow gets them out of the cells. They steal the Tesseract back. They run away from the pigs. They run to the portal. They stop. And then Jack Black says, "Take it and go to this address and follow the scent of my armpits, and you will be safe." And then
he's not joking. He's not joking.
So for no reason, Steve stays behind and Dennis runs back through the Nether portal, then through the Overworld portal, and all the way back to Steve's house in the Boring World. The pigs chase Dennis, but they begin to fry in the sun, which establishes an important limitation. The pigs can't just rampage across the overworld, because if they do that, they'll die, at least until the movie decides they can do it actually, which means they should already have carried out their evil plan and the movie should now be over, but fuck it, we have more suffering. Dennis drops the Tesseract under the bed, and purely because it's convenient, the Tesseract falls out of its magical condom sheath, and this closes the portal. There isn't any real narrative need for this to happen. We're currently running on the assumption the pigs can't follow Dennis across the overworld. No one from the overworld has crossed through into the portal despite it being open for years, and nobody has or will cross the other way by accident. That this is the way it works is a lazy bid to convince the audience that it has workings to work in the first place. This, anyway, brings us to the title slate. In the working cut, the title is accompanied by music. But then at some point they decided that it also needed a comedic line from Steve.
Wait a second, putting it under my waterbed's a horrible plan!
Funny guy, that was definitely worth adding. We pan down from the titles and we meet Aquaman, dressed indeed like he's from the 1980s. Unlike most of the people pretending to be characters in this movie, Aquaman actually has something approaching a backstory and an arc, probably because the name of Jason Momoa's production company is on the credits. Aquaman used to be a champion gamer. He became famous by using a move called the garbage toss at some old arcade game championships, which is how he became known as the Garbage Man. But we'll continue to call him Aquaman because he keeps saying, "Yeah," over and over and over again.
Yeah! Yeah! Woo! Yeah!
Aquaman now owns some sort of retro gaming store and he's fallen on hard times. He can't pay the rent. This will be important later, kind of. It'll be much more relevant than everything else in his backstory. You might have naively been thinking that because you've seen movies before and you have a basic understanding of how they work, all of our character intros would clue us in on their overworld abilities. Aquaman used to be a gamer, which knowledge is useless to him now in the real boring adult world, but will be useful to him later, surely. The young boy, introduced as possessing an imagination, will be an expert crafter. This happy black woman who likes animals will tame the beasts of the overworld, and so on. All these underappreciated skills will be incredibly useful in a world where talents are rewarded. But yeah, you're being naive. Absolutely none of that's true of the Minecraft movie, because even the fundamentals of storytelling and character building are too ambitious for this bunch of tedious clown people. The absence of any actual story does make it exceptionally easy to write your own better version of the movie. For example, Aquaman frequents storage auctions looking for old games consoles and paraphernalia, we learn. A movie that wanted him to be a character might have shown that part of the reason for his financial troubles is that he buys these things but refuses to sell them because his life is defined by nostalgia. He forlornly displays them, he invites the public to use them, trying to recreate the culture and the camaraderie of old, but the horrible modern world has fallen out of love with arcade games and side-scrollers and 8-bit art styles, so he's left all alone with nothing but his memories for company. But the Aquaman we actually get only wants to find ancient game systems to sell them. He turns up at the storage unit auction. He's kind of friends with the storage unit auctioneer, who explains that there's a very special lot with lots of funny things in it.
It's got an array of unisex turquoise blouses.
This being hilarious, the movie makes sure even the slow kids have an opportunity to laugh at it.
Two big buffaloes like us out there, wearing unisex turquoise blouses.
And this still being so very, very funny, we have to make sure even people who are functionally brain dead have an opportunity to laugh at it.
Two loose cannon wearing turquoise blouses. Yep.
And only once you're done guffawing at the terrifically witty jokes in the Minecraft movie do you then learn that this particular storage unit has an old Atari Cosmos in it. Now, there's a good chance that you, like me, are too young to remember the Atari Cosmos, or even the Atari games consoles generally. The Atari Cosmos specifically was slated for release in the early 1970s/early 80s, when many of us weren't even a sperm cell. I think my mum was just about a baby at that time. But whatever age you are, you do have access to the internet, and a quick Google search will confirm that it is impossible for there to be an Atari Cosmos in this storage unit because they were never actually released. But hey-ho, it's a trivial thing. What we glean from all this is that the locker belonged to Steve, which is important, and that it presents Aquaman with an opportunity to make some cash, which is boring.
If you make this happen for me, I will strongly consider hanging out with you.
It's an auction. How is he going to make this happen for you? You're bidding against other people. Now, I can believe that an Atari Cosmos might fetch a princely sum on the market, because things that don't exist tend to be quite rare, but Aquaman's winning bid on this lot is $900. And yet another Google search suggests that your average old Atari console goes for less than $100. Again, a version of this movie where he wrecks his finances buying things he loves with no intent to sell them would be a better reason for his outlay than a version where he tries to fix his finances by selling old shit. In one version, he's less of an idiot and he's more nostalgic. There's more you can resonate with. Who hasn't spent more than they should have done on something they really, really love?
There's little R2-D2s where the George Washington should be.
You know, Jerry, I'm not going to tell you that these will increase in value or even hold their current value. The truth is, you bought them because you like them. They have value to you. That's what matters.
How long are you staying?
But in the version we got, nope, he's just a fucking spanner. Aquaman does win the lot, but oh dear, when he opens the Atari box, there's no Cosmos inside. Probably because they were never made. He begins trashing the place looking for something, anything of value, but nobody seems to think that it's at all odd that a Tesseract is now just lying on the floor. Now, one of the themes that emerges from the discrepancies between working and theatrical cuts of this movie is that the theatrical cut thought there wasn't enough theme in the working cut. So where, in the unfinished tales, Cowboy Man just dismisses Aquaman for disrespecting the storage unit community,
Let's roll, everyone! This man has no respect for the storage community.
The theatrical cut first has him say,
Stop looking for treasure inside a storage unit. The real treasure is inside your heart.
On the whole, I am in favor of movies having a theme. Theme is good. Themes aren't enough to make good, but they should be present in good. The Minecraft movie does understand that this is conventional wisdom, so it periodically decides to have a character blurt out words like creativity and imagination. But because it's been written by somebody who could be replaced by the worst chatbot available, the movie's theme never actually emerges. We live in a world where creativity is punished, says the Minecraft movie, so we present to you the Minecraft movie as proof. Anyhow, $900 out of pocket with nothing much to show for it except the Tesseract, Aquaman drives off. But oh dear, his car breaks down. He just can't catch a break. And while he's trying to fix it, our next carload of non-characters drives past, and so it's time to switch our focus. This is the brother and sister team known respectively as Henry and Natalie. For reasons of bullying, we shall refer to them as Sister and Lisp.
Yeah, I read something online. This place sucks.
What are they doing here? You probably didn't ask because everyone watching this movie has their brain set to sleep mode. Well...
Chugless was not my first choice either, but it was Mom's dying wish for us to live here. Or at least that's how I interpreted it.
Fucking Chugless. The town is called Chugless. Funniest thing in the movie. Also, what do you mean that's how you interpreted your mother's dying words? Why would your mother's dying wish be for you to move to a town with a terrible school where the only employer is a potato chip manufacturer? Why didn't you make sure? And as is usually the case, the answer to this question is not to ask it in the first place. It being, again, impossible not to improve a non-story, there's a conventional but easy hero's journey setup that was available to them. Although common, it would have been more interesting than the fucking dust that is this script. You could, for example, have had their mother die off screen, the current setup, and either have sent them off to live with their dad, or to have them move here in search of their dad who has disappeared. The dad would be Steve. He either has or will disappear into the overworld, leaving the kids feeling abandoned and confused. Lisp's motive would be the classic find the father trope, which would drive him off in a search that leads him to the overworld in a fit of youthful exuberance, while poor sister tries her best to be a responsible adult and inadvertently drives him away. The point of this hypothetical story would be to set up a parallel to expose later the conflict between childish wonder and imagination and the duties and responsibilities of the adult world, which can seem like a loveless burden until, at the close, some happy compromise is reached. The father was wrong to leave, we would learn. He has been overtaken by his own imagination at the cost of responsibility, at the cost of his children, at the cost of the people who care about him. This, in our version of the Minecraft story, would be a fault the son mirrors. But by the same token, the sister would be wrong to assume that adulthood means crushing the dreams out of children. Over the course of this story that I am spitballing right here, Lisp and sister learn from their mistakes, and the movie's theme is balance. An excess of indulgence or discipline is equally flawed. Growing up is important, it's responsible, but responsibility needn't crush the soul. As I say, that's incredibly easy to come up with, but no, fuck it. In the version we actually got, the kids are moving here because their dying mom told them to for reasons that nobody bothered to include in the movie. Sister says that rent is super low and there's a job waiting for her.
Yeah, people love working at the potato chip factory.
Yeah, well, I'm running their socials for a little bit. I said I'd get their follower count past 75.
Just think, once the tariffs do their work, you can have a much more fulfilling job getting paid minimum wage to work 12-hour shifts on a factory floor, drilling holes in washers until you die because your retirement fund is worth $4. I'm told this is the American dream. Lisp, meanwhile, sketches in a notebook, and this tells us that he is very creative, which will be relevant for a couple of scenes in this movie about creativity. The kids pull up at their new house and they are met by another entity the writers should be ashamed to call a character. This one is named Dawn, though in my notes she is just happy black lady. There's absolutely no reason for her to be in the movie. She does nothing of note. You know she's superfluous because the writers used a random word generator to decide what her real-world occupation is. They rolled it twice and it returned realtor and mobile zoo. So here she is, renting the house to them, and also she has a mobile zoo.
Hi, why is there an alpaca hanging out of your car? Well, real estate's not my only hustle.
Keep this in mind, it'll be relevant later. And by later, I mean right at the end of the movie and not before. The kids move in and unpack, and the film briefly pretends like the dead mother is really significant to the story. Look, there she is in a photo. Look, there's a note on the bottom of a prop. And now that's done, we don't have to mention it ever again. The next day, Sister makes Lisp some pizza rolls to take to school so that he can make friends.
There's a part where things slow down, and then a talking pizza roll appears and starts talking directly to the audience. It says to butcher your wife in the bathtub.
Thought you wanted me to seem normal.
Get used to this face. It's the one face this actor is able to pull. His acting range is incredibly evocative of the phrase, "My mum fucked the casting agent." Sister has also bought Lisp a body spray because...
Signature scents are huge here.
Indeed, they are. They're so huge here that this gets a payoff in the very next scene and is never mentioned by anybody ever again. It's what's called a gimmick. Gimmicks is how you do character, you see. Lisp sprays it and he remarks that it smells like banana-flavored poo. Something you've got to accept if you're going to get along with this movie is that it's rated PG, and while it's perfectly possible to write clever jokes and insults in a PG movie, nobody in this writer's room could be bothered with that shit. It's either that or they exhausted their rude jokes quota for an extended in-flight 69ing reference that we'll all have to suffer through later. Lisp goes off to school, but he makes a stop at Aquaman's store en route. Oh look, there's the Tesseract just sitting on the shelf ready to be relevant later. Aquaman is now running some sort of mentorship program teaching people how to succeed at life for $50 an hour, and in one of the few bits of competence set up across the entire movie, this clues in Lisp that Aquaman is broke and will do questionable things for money. And this, being a bit of setup, will be paid off precisely once.
I also noticed that you're wearing Velvet Mischief.
I didn't think I applied very much.
Oh my god, what a terrific payoff to that comedic beat. I just can't with the comedy in this movie. Lisp goes to school and meets the principal, whose gimmick, everybody has one, is...
I'm Vice Principal Marlene, and I'm an open book. You probably heard that my husband Clemente recently divorced me. You know, the fire went out on our marriage 20 years ago, but we stuck it out for the dogs.
Yeah, so that's her. We then meet the only teacher who will ever be even briefly relevant, and his gimmick is the same.
Just a little something about myself. I teach gym, I teach art. Financially, I'm living a nightmare, okay? Most of my money is tied up in a drone kiosk at the mall.
Ah, they're all just such wonderful, quirky characters. Don't you just love it? Anyway, this scene is important because it establishes that Lisp is very creative and he gets punished for this because creative kids get bullied. He draws a banana with a jetpack on it. Some bullies bully him.
That jetpack would never work. It's just math.
My dad said math has been debunked.
Fucking shoot me. And then they go outside. And this scene is important because it destroys everything that the previous scene was trying to establish. It's hard to make the point that creativity and imagination get punished when you then show that creative kids are given unlimited resources to build whatever the fuck they want. In this case, a fully functioning jetpack. The movie says one thing and then it shows another, which is a problem when the subject is the movie's thematic through line. But fuck it, yeah, Lisp gets to build his jetpack, then one of the bullies sebulbas that jetpack for no particular reason. So when it launches, it veers off course and it smashes into the potato chip factory where Sister is briefing the olds on her plan for the socials.
I know that we're all very excited about the new rebrand, but I don't think you should call your party bags salt sacks.
Sir, a second nerd has hit the mascot. This does sort of establish an unintended theme in the movie, which is that it has more characters than it knows what to do with. For the moment, Lisp is getting the more substantive work, and Sister is something of an afterthought. A competent movie might switch this up a bit later, spending a bit of time exploring the world from Sister's perspective, the struggle she faces, her pseudo-maternal responsibility for Lisp, and so on, but this is not a competent movie. Lisp is summoned by the principal and told that this could be grounds for expulsion, so he's to call his guardian. The school should really know who his guardian is because schools keep files on this sort of thing, so they'd know who to call if Lisp had incapacitated himself rather than 9/11'd a silly mascot. But as that would be inconvenient to our needs, no. Instead, Lisp calls Aquaman because they've shared a single scene together and this establishes that they have a relationship. Aquaman pretends to be Lisp's uncle, even though Aquaman is kind of famous and everyone in the town kind of knows him, so this really shouldn't work. But what the fuck? It's just a video game movie, it doesn't need to make sense. Aquaman pulls up. I guess he got his car fixed off screen despite his crippling debts. Remember how that was a thing? The principal cracks a sex joke.
Oh, you can bag me up and take me to the curb anytime. But you gotta bungee the lid, because I got a lot of raccoons in there.
These sensible people leave the theater. Lisp and Aquaman return to Aquaman's shop. Dennis is sniffing around outside, but he's not really relevant at the moment, so just pretend you haven't seen him yet. Inside, Lisp notices the Tesseract. He's the first person to notice the Tesseract in however many years it's been, and because the movie is concerned that we've now spent too much time in Boring World, it's time to fast forward our way to the Overworld to have pretty much the same amount of fun. And how do we accomplish this? Well, by not giving a shit.
Never under any circumstances combine the orb and crystal. Do not follow this orb, even if you're a struggling business owner and need a ton of cash fast because there's loads of treasure down here.
Dude, it feels like I want to go somewhere.
It's funny because it makes no sense, and this is fine because the movie knows that it makes no sense, and this is how writing works. It was good because it was meant to be bad. I don't want to give the impression that I hate fun, because that really understates how much I loathe fun. But this beat here takes the place of actual motive. You know, the kind of thing characters are supposed to have. If, to take another dumb, silly, so doesn't have to be good kids movie as an example, you'd ask pretty much anybody why Woody and Buzz don't like each other at the beginning of Toy Story. Damn near everyone who's ever seen the movie at any point in their life can tell you that Woody is terrified of being replaced by the newer, popular toy that Andy likes playing with now. That's because the toys in Toy Story are characters, and well-written ones at that. It's what makes Toy Story so memorable. If, by contrast, you ask the average Minecraft enjoyer next week why Lisp and Aquaman went to the Overworld, how many do you reckon will remember that the movie just spawned an instruction manual to shove its plot along? Because my bet is not many. And that's because the humans in this movie are not characters, so the film has nothing to say because it hates storytelling. I don't hate fun, I just hate what fun has become. For absolutely no reason besides that she needs to be in the movie, Sister calls Happy Black Lady for help because Lisp hasn't come home yet, even though he's supposed to still be in school.
I thought he'd still be in detention for blowing up Chuggy the Chip.
I don't think you know that. I think you just read the script. So then, for absolutely no reason besides that they both need to be in the same bit of the movie as everybody else, Happy Black Lady uses her black girl magic to locate Lisp.
He's fine. He's just playing in an abandoned mine shaft.
And I know you don't know that, because when we cut away to Lisp, later, he and Aquaman are only just arriving at the mine. I think things may have been cut out or reordered here, because these back-to-back scenes are quite clearly not happening at the same time of day. It is quite evidently cloudy and overcast at the house, while it's bright blue skies over at the mine. It's either that or the mine is in a totally different part of the country to the house, but if that's the case, how will Sister and Happy Black Lady arrive at the mine in time to intercept Lisp and Aquaman?
Henry!
Oh, God!
What are you doing down here? Who's this guy?
Fuck it, I guess they'll just teleport. Why not? It makes about as much sense as anything else in the movie does. And them all being in the same place means they can all get sucked through the portal, but sequentially, so we can do a funny. It's at about this time in the movie when I began headcanoning my third or fourth better movie in a bit to keep sane. In this latest version, building on the family story mentioned earlier, Lisp goes through the portal but Sister does not, in a way not dissimilar to the parallel storytelling between kids and parents in Stranger Things, for example. Lisp goes adventuring through the overworld while Sister, who drove him away in the first place by being too strict a surrogate mother, tries to navigate the travails of the real world world, the consequences of his disappearance, experiencing for herself the pressures that made the real world so intolerable to him. All this en route to her own moment of self-discovery, that she was wrong to be so hard on him. She was wrong to try and force him to grow up. She was wrong to grow up herself too quickly. Responsibility is not a chore or a punishment, but an act of love. Anyway, then Aquaman starts talking to a sheep, and that dragged me back into the tedious movie we actually got. Remember how his whole backstory was that he used to be a champion gamer? Remember how the movie kinda suggested he might get on pretty well in a game-like world? Well, yeah, we're not doing any of that.
That's what I think it is. It could be our first quest giver.
The sweeping vista shot with the rousing music really doesn't work in this instance because we've already fucking seen and done all of this. We had it in the prologue. If we're going to repeat it, we need to learn something new, ideally through the eyes of characters who see this world differently. Think Jurassic Park, which is of course just a dumb dinosaur movie that doesn't have to be good, except that it is because it's really fucking excellent, where that movie's first vista shot, the Brachiosaurus reveal, is used to tell us how each of our characters views this accomplishment. Alan Grant is overwhelmed and lost, Ellie Sattler is wonderstruck, Donald Gennaro, the lawyer, just sees dollar signs, Ian Malcolm sees danger, John Hammond loves their responses, and he just wants to show them the next attraction. In this movie, by contrast, they see a pink sheep, and Aquaman is an idiot, and Happy Black Lady says, "Gee, Aquaman, you're an idiot."
Hola.
That thing doesn't understand a word you're saying.
We're talking.
Oh, by the way, while all this is going on, a random villager walks out from behind a tree and just wanders through the portal to the real world, while Dennis runs in through the other direction. And because this is setting up something that is completely fucking pointless, even by the standards of the Minecraft movie, I'm going to do here what we did on EFAP and just tell you the villager's whole story so we don't have to go through it again later. He walks through the portal. The school principal hits him with a car. The car is a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Because everyone wants to sue me once I hit them with my Jeep Grand Cherokee.
I guess this is product placement? If you want to commit vehicular manslaughter, do it in style with the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Massacre villagers like you're at the Oahu Falls with the cheap Grand Cherokee. It's not racist if you hit an Indian with the cheap Grand Cherokee. The villager doesn't die. The principal takes him for a dinner date. She flirts with him.
Are you finished? No, I think he's Swedish.
She takes him home for dessert. They get engaged. He learns to speak English. He is voiced by Matt Berry. The end. Anyway, back to the A-plot. Down in the Nether, the pigs are still mining for gold. This is still a shit motive. A little pig, though, is drawing a pretty picture.
Pretty.
If you're actually paying attention, you might think the movie is making a point here. The pigs are not evil. They do have joy and creativity after all, despite what Steve told us earlier. It's only their evil leader who makes them bad, but the pigs themselves, well, they're capable of redemption. But the movie isn't paying attention, and so they're all going to die horribly later, and you will laugh because you think they deserve it, because you weren't paying attention either. Despite having no other technology to speak of, Emperor Pigpatine does have some sort of magical device that lets her know when the Tesseract is in play. But wait, you might ask, if she has this, then why didn't it work when Steve spent years wandering around the overworld with the Tesseract in his pockets? What are you doing asking questions? Imagination gets punished, remember? You don't want to be bullied, do you? Switch your brain off. It's a fun movie if you've had a lobotomy. Emperor Pigpatine still has Steve imprisoned. She finds him sculpting a horrific pig statue with some tools he definitely couldn't have used to escape, because using tools and building things doesn't happen in this Minecraft movie.
Was I unclear when I said no one was to waste time on art or leisure?
He's in prison. What else can he use his time for? The basic idea here is that she's going to free him to go after the Tesseract, and to keep him in line, she threatens to kill his Dennis. She doesn't have Dennis, she just has his collar from earlier in the movie. Steve might not know this now, but even if he does believe her, that belief really can't survive first contact with the people who actually have the Tesseract. And Emperor Palpatine, being unable to send forces into the Overworld, has no way of keeping him in line once he's up there. Until the movie decides that she does, at which point she never needed him to begin with, so she had no business sending him up there to fetch something that she could easily have grabbed herself. You might have been able to rejig this a little bit and restore some sense and meaning to it. Let's say the piglins can go to the Overworld, but just at night. Steve and Dennis escape the Nether at night, but they are pursued. Believing it to be the only way to keep the Tesseract and his own world safe from the piglins' armies, Steve sends Dennis through the portal with the Tesseract and then breaks the portal from his end. He then escapes and lives as a hermit who's terrified of the night, because at night he is hunted. This would be especially poignant in that version of my headcanon movie where he is the kid's father, because he's essentially sacrificing his relationship with them to keep them safe. The irony in Lisp finding the portal in his world and rebuilding it at his end is that his creativity and imagination is the quality that he shares with his father, but this time it leads him through the portal and into danger. Fuck, we're just doing Tron Legacy again. Anyway, ditching the prison premise or amending it so that Emperor Palpatine tries to find the son through the father, and then unasking the can the pigs go to the Overworld question, well, that would completely eliminate the contradictions in the movie we actually got, while also giving us something approaching a story featuring something resembling characters. But fuck it, writing is hard. Sister tells Lisp that they're going home, but then night suddenly arrives. We totally skip the game's sunset moments because I guess they're too evocative and rich with dramatic potential. We also assume that everybody already knows that bad shit happens at night, so rather than even attempting to build tension out of it, we just get more jokes.
Fear is just weakness, hijacking your body's cockpit. If that happens, you can say Vio con Diaz to your body plane's navigation system.
Yeah, garbage man isn't speaking English or Espanol.
Then, oh dear, arrows fly out of the sky and they miss them. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. It's fine though, because Sisters just said they're going back through the portal and the portal is right next to them, so all they need to do is just step back through the portal and unplug the Tesseract. Or they can run off in a totally random direction so the rest of the movie can happen. The incredibly stupid thing is, the Tesseract is shortly to be hit with an arrow that breaks its sheath and closes the portal anyway. The incredibly simple fix to this incredibly stupid problem is, have this happen first. Either have one of these arrows hit it and break it, or else have them run back toward the portal, only for Aquaman to be smacked by a zombie or a skeleton or whatever, and that breaks the Tesseract. The portal closes in front of them, they're trapped, and then they have a reason to run off. It takes 2 seconds to make improvements like this. The Minecraft movie was in production for 11 years. So they run away, but the movie then decides the middle of a chase sequence is a good time to explore some mechanics. So Lisp runs into a tree and this teaches him how to craft. No, I'm not shitting you. He bonks his head, a tree block disappears, and he suddenly thinks, hey, I know how to summon matter from the ether and build complex structures. And to manufacture time for this realization, the movie has a skeleton shoot another skeleton riding a spider that causes that spider to explode, and this means the chase just stops for a bit until it's time for the chase to begin again, and then everybody remembers they're supposed to be running and screaming, so back to running and screaming we go. I will note, by the way, that what the movie has just established is not a mechanic. Lisp learns that he can hit trees to get wood, and having done that, he can drop wood blocks all over the place.
Now you're free to roam around and start punching trees.
Punching trees?
Why would we punch trees?
Just use your brain. How do you get wood?
But he will rarely, if ever, use this skill, and nobody else will ever use this skill. In fact, when Lisp builds a shelter around them and Aquaman runs into the side of it, nothing happens. And when he later kicks a door, nothing happens. So, for what I can only call pure, unalloyed reasons, the rules of Minecraft only apply to Lisp and even then, only sometimes. God, it's just such wonderful, wonderful creativity in this movie about creativity. So Lisp does indeed build the shelter, and Aquaman runs for it, and he picks up the Tesseract, but it gets shot out of his hand, and then he runs into the side of the shelter and nothing happens, and then he gets mobbed by the mob and he doesn't die. And all this after he bumps into a creeper? And he also doesn't die. And up on the tower roof, the rest of the mine-tarts are also attacked. And then a creeper helms deeps the side of the tower, so everyone's in deep shit. But then, who should magically appear but Steve? Fucking look at this shit. Where did he come from? How did he get up here? Can he teleport? Does he also have black girl magic? Steve beats the shit out of all the enemies and tops it all off with what he calls a sneak attack. Sneak attack! Steve does this sneak attack thing a few times in the movie, and I don't know if it's already a meme or if it's the movie's attempt to make it a meme, but whatever it is, it's hilarious.
I'm Steve.
Steve does ask about Dennis, which is fine, he cares about Dennis, but the subject is immediately dropped in favor of generic bickering about the Tesseract. It's as if, at some point during production, the story was going to have Steve betray them to save Dennis, but then that idea got scrapped, so the setup is still there, but there's absolutely nothing to pay it off. Dennis becomes pretty much redundant and Steve's motive disappears. From "give me the Tesseract so I can save Dennis," we jump to "we must travel to this Woodland Mansion place to find a new box to put the Tesseract in so you can open a portal and go home, even though I, Steve, have no interest in going home and no particular need to help you people get there." The movie kind of still needs Dennis to motivate Steve to help them, but this is the scene that reveals that Emperor Pigpatine was lying about capturing Dennis. It's just that nobody seems to have noticed.
Listen, Henry, why don't you hold this? You those good Frodo vibes, kid.
This, by contrast, is going to give us the new character conflict. And by character conflict, I mean, well, they'll spend about 30 seconds arguing about it later. Aquaman had the Tesseract, you see. It's taken from him and given to Lisp for a few minutes until Aquaman steals it back, and then he strikes up a private deal with Steve to detour through some diamond mines so he can get rich. Except that the movie then changes its mind about this as well, so the diamond mines aren't a detour, they're pretty much en route, and even though the movie wants to portray Aquaman as being the bad and selfish dick, it ends up making Lisp even more insufferable than he already is. But fuck it, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I will crack your cabeza with my butt cheeks like a walnut.
This guy is such a tool bag.
This is pretty much every Aquaman scene. He does something for dumb laughs, and we cut to a character saying, "Gee, this guy's dumb," and then we move on. The Tesseract box thing thereafter is called the Earth Crystal. It has nothing to do with the Earth, and it doesn't look like a crystal, but any noun will do. Steve says they'll die if they try to make it to the Woodland Mansion alone, so instead, they have to go to a nameless village, because Steve has a stash of supplies there. You might think that Steve's stash would have been in Steve's world, because, you know, that'd at least show what we're capable of creating in the overworld, as well as fleshing out a place we've already been introduced to, but no, fuck it. We forgot that place existed. It's just a generic village we're off to.
So they built all this?
Yeah, most of it. But the good stuff you see, that's all Steve.
But there isn't any good stuff. This is all just generic villager. You know, for a guy who lives here because he wants to let his imagination run wild, Steve sure seems to lack imagination. There are, of course, lots of references in this village. Villagers, redstone, iron golems.
Is he some kind of king?
No. That's a legend.
Apparently this is a reference to some famous dead Minecraft streamer, and as you'd expect from a poignant and heartfelt tribute, it's on screen for 5 seconds and it immediately cuts to Steve singing a song about cooking chickens in lava.
Lalala-Lava Chicken.
It's honestly like Jack Black has a contract stipulating that he must have at least one song in every film he's in, but they couldn't think where and why to work one into this movie, so they just cut the head off a chicken and let it run over the script, and they put put the song wherever it died. It doesn't even fucking connect to anything. They only come to the lava chicken place because Aquaman decides,
yo, I need protein like pronto.
Of all the things you could have done with redstone, with lava, and with chickens, why was this the thing you put in your movie? And then we get a confused joke. Steve takes a bite out of the newly cooked chicken, and it is far too hot. Aquaman, to prove he's the toughest, goes to take a bite out of the newly cooked chicken too, and Steve says,
Garrett, wait! That chicken was just cooked in hot lava. Let it cool down, man.
There's two jokes here, and they can't coexist. It has to be different writers. I don't know what the fuck happened here. He picks up the chicken and it's too hot for Steve, and he's like, oh, ouchies, so hot, ugh. And then when Garrett picks it up to eat it, he's like, whoa, Garrett, that is a chicken that has been heated with lava or whatever. He has like a full lore explanation for why it's hot. He's like, you can't just eat it. It's like, just eat. Like, what? you try. Like, what? You can't the first joke is implying that Jack Black, like, just didn't know. And the second joke implies he's always known and would never make that mistake, and he's trying to teach new people.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like I said, it feels like two different writers wrote two different
did.
jokes, and they had two different ideas onto how to do this scene.
And of course, because Aquaman has just done a funny, we cut to a character who says, hey, you're an idiot.
Garbage man, you're a big time idiot.
Speaking of things being hot and pointless, down in Mordor, Emperor Pigpatine summons a mini-boss called General Chungus. Not gonna lie, I actually kind of like this name, got a bit of a smile out of me. Being a character, General Chungus must of course have a gimmick, and General Chungus's gimmick is that he's gay.
Hey Malgosha, what's going on?
Even though at this present moment the pigs can't go up to the overworld, Emperor Pigpatine tells General Chungus that her spies have tracked Steve and the Mintards not just to the village, but to the specific chicken shop.
No way! I love that place!
How? How does it, what? No, how? Oh, fuck knows. But they now have a potion that lets them go to the overworld, meaning that they don't need Steve, they never needed Steve, they could have sent an army to ambush the Mintards as soon as they entered the overworld, and they just didn't do that because that would have made way too much sense. Back in the village, Sister asks Steve how they find the Woodland Mansion. Steve knows exactly where it is, and he tells her as much.
Over the mountains, into the dark forest, right beyond the massive red shrooms.
But being a woman, this answer isn't good enough for Sister, so she starts insisting that they buy a map for no reason.
I need to find a real map, Steve. I need to get my brother out of here.
But you don't need a real map. Steve lives here. Steve knows where the Woodland Mansion is. Let him cook, you frumpy harlot. We now have about 20 seconds with nothing in particular going on, so the film decides it's time for a character moment.
Well, it seems like he's having a pretty good time. Your brother has a gift, you know that, right? Creativity in this world is key to survival.
Okay, well, in the real world, things are a little bit different. Creative kids get picked last for gym, they sit at the bummer lunch table, and they get bullied.
Don't I know it?
Do you even realize what he did back home? He blew up Chuggy the Chip.
A. Lisp hasn't done anything in this world, so there's not much basis for saying that he seems like he's having a good time. B. You've never heard him complain about being bullied, so why even make that assumption? It would sure be nice if we'd actually seen characters representing the theme before we started yapping about it. And C. You're saying all this while he's standing right in front of you.
Well, maybe I belong in this world. Henry, that's not what I meant. It's not what I was saying at all.
And I think if you'd wanted to like plumb this particular depth, but you'd have had to really have established her as being much more of like the try to be an adult character, the one who actually discourages him several times until this point. And then the argument she'd have to deploy would be more like, well, no, because like he goes off the rails, like he blew up a factory, like this kind of unchecked imagination that he's been going in for is childish and it's dangerous and he needs to grow up. And if you'd done the pre-establishing work, that would be quite a clear divide between them. But we haven't had, I don't think, really a single scene where she tells him off about anything to do with creativity or imagination, which makes this entire thing seem like it comes from nowhere.
And her rant about him, by the way, that she like oversteps and says something she regrets about him. They have this like wider shot where it's just revealed he is standing right in front of her.
It was so comical.
Women will be women, so rather than following the chaps into Steve's stash with all the cool and useful things in it, Sister and Happy Black Lady decide to go and see about finding that map that they don't need. They never get the map. All we've done here is manufacture a really flimsy pretext to split the Minetards into two separate groups, so that the guys get to go on the thing that vaguely resembles an adventure, and the girls get to spend most of their time off screen because they're boring and pointless and the movie doesn't like them. Fucking based Minecraft movie. Steve's stash is also full of references, including
TNT, firework rockets, also good for propulsion, boots of swiftness, diamond armor, full set, and blades for days.
They won't actually take much of this stuff with them though, because fuck it, why would they? But we do clearly establish the mechanics behind the Ender Pearl, and you know that's going to be relevant later, because there's absolutely no point introducing it if it's not going to be relevant later. I can't wait to see how they make it relevant later. This is all fine as far as it goes, but what isn't fine is that we also, by extension, set up the Enderman as a concept. Steve tells us that this pearl, it's the only pearl he has.
No biggie. Almost died fighting an Enderman for it.
From which you might assume that the Enderman is going to be a significant threat later in the movie, right? Right. Steve then introduces us to the crafting table. We aren't going to use the crafting table to build any of the many thousands of items already available in the Minecraft game. What we are going to do is use it to make some funny gimmicks that will be added to the Minecraft game in an add-on. Lisp makes some kind of tater-tot potato gun thing that he'll use maybe twice later in the movie, and Aquaman dumps some random crap onto the table and he makes some nunchucks out of buckets. Bucket chucks? Nun buckets?
They're buck chuckets.
Nah, fuck it. What you're watching here is content. The movie is literally just content. Note what isn't in Steve's stash. Despite being incredibly useful and valuable, there are no diamonds in Steve's stash. Even though everything else he's collected and made, including several diamond-based objects, is in the stash, Steve does have a lot of diamonds. He has a whole stash of diamonds, but for reasons of not giving a shit, he's left them somewhere very far away and inaccessible in order that we have an excuse to spend about 3 minutes there later. Once again, this is incredibly quick and easy to fix. Since we're doing a reference gallery anyway, have Steve point to, say, a diamond helmet and explain that it's incredibly valuable because diamonds are so hard to get. This could pique Aquaman's interest because he needs money, so he wants diamonds, and Steve explains in passing that there was an old diamond mine way out, but it got overrun by mobs, so he had to abandon it. I know, it takes so much brainpower to come up with stuff like this. There's no way we can reasonably expect 5 writers to come up with it in 11 years. I bang on about it though because it is important. It's basically all we've got left by way of character motives. Aquaman is broke, he needs money. Steve wants the Tesseract, and oh yeah, by the way, Aquaman stole the Tesseract back at some point. I don't know when or where this happened. I'm not convinced it even happened on screen. It's going to determine where we end up going next though. If you're going to spend time getting anything right, it is probably the basic mechanics of your A-plot. So Aquaman pulls Steve aside and he says, hey, I need money. Diamonds are worth money. How about you lead us to those mines instead of straight to the Woodland Mansion, and I'll trade you the Tesseract for the jewels. And even though Steve should now know that Emperor Pigpatine doesn't have Dennis, he says, okay, sure. Outside, while trying to buy a map they don't need and will never actually get, the girls hear bad things approaching. And oh golly, the pigs, they attack the village. So we get the llama bit from the trailer because that was just hilarious. You'll remember that we've already established the Iron Golem, and Steve explicitly told us how it works.
They're a bunch of big softies! Unless you start messing with the villagers. Don't ever do that!
What he didn't mention is that the Iron Golem is operating on a 5-minute delay. It has to operate on a 5-minute delay because, in the big final battle, Iron Golems are the good guy's ultimate weapon and they're deployed triumphantly. Which hinders this scene because it means the Iron Golem, though present, can't be on screen until it no longer matters. Otherwise, it would intervene and it would win, and that would be very inconvenient. We could have had a quick scene showing pigs luring the Iron Golem away somehow, but obviously we can't be doing that because it requires effort. The guys run outside to confront the pigs.
I'm really sorry, but I have to unalive you and stuff. Ah!
Unalive. I have to unalive you and stuff. Look at this frame here. Look at the way the slightly creepy older man grabs hold of the young virgin child. This is a harrowing and clever depiction of the grooming problem in the Minecraft community. Anyway, Aquaman wants to prove he's the best, so he insists on fighting General Chungus himself with his buckjuckets and inadvertently knocks Steve out with them, and then he gets beaten up because they suck. I'm pretty sure Shad approves of this anti-nunchuck messaging, if nothing else. The female Minecraftverse pick up some implements to use as weapons, and if you're old-fashioned enough to think that characters matter, and for some reason you find yourself still watching this movie when the Red Letter Media guys had already checked out by this point, this is worth paying attention to, because you might have noticed something. Our theme, of course, is that creativity is punished and imagination gets you bullied. Most of our characters have, if we stretch the meaning of the words, dreams. Dreams that go unappreciated in the real world. Aquaman has his store, Lisp has general creativity. He said he'd love to be a rocket scientist, but that's just a particular expression of the general aspiration. Happy Black Lady has her mobile zoo. So you can already be reasonably sure that the movie will end with all of these things in some altered form becoming successful. Ideally, this would be based on something they learn in the Overworld, but since it's the Minecraft movie, it's safe to assume there is no connection at all. But which of the Minecraftians have I not mentioned? Well, that'd be Sister. What's happened, you see, is that the film forgot to give her a dream during its character establishment phase. We're now about halfway through the movie, and somebody in the writer's room has noticed the problem, so it's time for a quick fix. The girls fight, and mid-battle, Happy Black Lady turns to Sister and she says,
"You were kicking butt! Thanks, I have no idea where it came from!"
So now, this is her dream, somehow. She now wants to teach self-defense later in the movie. I mean, no, it's not going to be explained. No, it'll never be discussed or explored. It is just going to come back right at the end so she can be slotted into the dreams come true montage. And the audience will say, "Hey, did we ever learn that she always dreamed of taking self-defense?" And the audience's mongoloid friend will reply, Anyway, it's now time for the fight to move out of the village, so Steve wakes up, the Iron Golem remembers that it's in the movie and it has a job to do, the pigs launch an air attack, and this splits the men Minetards from the women Minetards, restoring nature to its most harmonious state. That wasn't me. They actually put that in the movie. The men and the women established gender apartheid by splitting off and running in different directions. The male Minetardians go up some steps to the top of a cliff to prepare for an extended flight sequence, while the girl Minetardettes go... They kind of just go. Nobody cares, they suck. Steve conveniently has a couple of magic wing things on his person, and he gives one to Lisp and one to Aquaman. I'm not an expert on this subject, but I believe these magic wing things are like an endgame loot item in the game, so I don't know why he has multiple magic wing things but only one ender pearl. I've just given up trying to work out what standard gamers apply when it comes to lore accuracy and adaptations, because there doesn't seem to be one. It's either fine or it's a cardinal sin depending on general vibes at any given moment. There only being two magic wing things, Jack Black ends up riding Aquaman in what is basically an extended aerial gay.
Just relax, let my hips guide you, it's the only way!
And at the moment I would describe this humor as fine. It's just kind of fine. Come back to me in 5 minutes when it's somehow still going, and I'll probably be feeling much more genocidal about it. This takes us into the protracted Independence Day, Empire Strikes Back, homosexual canyon chase sequence. He should be dead, and I'm incredibly disappointed that he isn't.
We got hot riders there at 3 o'clock!
Why? Why are they there? Why are they just lining the canyon? How did they know you'd end up coming this way? Are we just spawning enemies because it's convenient? You're flying. You're not boxed in. Just go up.
We're not gonna fit! We're too chunky! We're gonna have to go nose to toes! Full-man sandwich!
It's funny because it's gay.
There's still some negative space back there! I'm trying to close the gaps! I'm gonna squeeze for your safety!
It's still funny because it's gay. It's still funny because it's still gay. It's still funny because it's still...
Don't worry! I'm gonna cushion our fall with this water bucket! Release!
Oh, wait, fuck, no, never mind. Remember the water bucket thing, by the way, because that's relevant later. I mean, no, don't fucking bother. Nobody else will bother. But technically it's relevant later, and we do have to keep up the pretense that we're still breaking down a plot. Speaking of plot, are you ready to learn all about Emperor Pigpatine's backstory? It's definitely time for us to do that, cause look, we've just had a chase scene and everything. Everybody knows exposition goes down best while your brain is still switched off from the chase scene. So take it away, Steve.
Listen! Malgosia's path to darkness started the way these things often do. During the semi-finals of the Nether's Got Talent.
Yeah, you see, somehow I wasn't bullshitting you earlier. The villain's motive comes from the Nether's Got Talent competition. The reason she hates creativity and wants gold instead is because she took part in a talent show and the pigs mocked her dancing. So then her dad said, and I think it's her dad,
Why did I tell you about all that dancing? I'm tired of you chasing your dreams. Now take this axe and go find some gold.
And that's it. That's why all of this nonsense is happening. That is our villain's motive. Once again, I do not believe people will be able to tell you why this is happening in a month's time. I don't think most people could even tell you what her name is now. This was a little bit different in the working cut, by the way.
What'd I tell you about all that dancing? You deserve to fail. Creativity will never make you happy. But you know what will? Gold. Now go find some.
I just said it was different. I didn't say it was better. I'd love to know what was going through their heads when they rewrote the line. I've been party to many a rewrite, but normally you do them when you need to improve them or clarify them, or add in reference to something you've decided should happen later. You don't just swap words around for no discernible gain. That's a waste of time. But fair play to the pigs, I fully endorse bullying dancers. I think theater kids should be thrown into lava. Dance, you poncy fuck!
She ever gets that orb, she'll black out the sun. This beautiful world and everything in it will wither and die.
But she had it. She had the Tesseract in the prologue, and she didn't do any of these things. Did you film and add the prologue after you'd made the rest of the film? Is that why it breaks so much of your movie? Steve says he's not going to give the Tesseract to Emperor Pigpatine, but he needs it for leverage to save Dennis, who he should by now know she doesn't have. The only way he can persist in the belief she does have Dennis is because he never asks the Mintardians if they've seen Dennis, and they never ask who Dennis is. In other words, the plot requires the absence of characters to function. Anyway, it's time for a Lord of the Rings reference.
The Woodland Mansion is just beyond the Redstone Mountains. We can go over or through.
Remember how this was supposed to be a lengthy diversion? Well, it's not a diversion anymore. They're just taking a riskier than necessary path to their destination, which is not the same thing. Down in the Nether, Emperor Pigpatine tells General Chungus that he's failed her for the last time. And no, I'm not memeing. The movie is memeing.
General Chungus, You have failed me for the last time.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
And so she kills him. This is because he has a name and a voice and an implied backstory with Steve, and all those things make him seem like too much of a character. So it's time to replace him with a bigger, badder, and more generic nameless variant of the Sus Domesticus family. This guy. This guy doesn't have a name or a voice. It would genuinely have been funnier if they'd made each newer, bigger, badder pig even gayer than the last one, but they don't do that. We're still gonna call him Big Gay Al anyway though, because I've got nothing else. Big Gay Al is explicitly billed as Emperor Palpatine's ultimate weapon.
The Great Hog, my ultimate weapon.
So naturally, it's going to be in the movie for about 30 seconds and then die. We get a brief nighttime detour with the girls, who now just stroll through the woods casually twatting zombies because we're done with the idea that nighttime is dangerous and threatening. There's next to nothing worth mentioning about this interlude. They just bitch a bit about how being an adult sucks, and then they meet Dennis. Dennis the wolf, Steve's Dennis, his best friend, the one who follows his scent wherever he needs to go. He's found the Mine Tardettes for reasons. He's also feral again for reasons, but it's fine because just like the last time, a bone pops into existence, so now he's tame again and he can lead them to Steve. Even though if he were looking for Steve, he'd never have bothered running into these two irrelevant women in the first place. Fucking joke movie. Over with the more relevant male characters, they enter the Redstone mines of Moria. Steve mentions he laid booby traps, so naturally Aquaman walks into one and it throws him onto a switch that is on the floor that opens the door to Steve's diamond stash.
It seems that Steve has set a trap that pushes people into activating a lever that opens his stash.
Steve is
what the traps are there to God.
You would think.
You
and
would
then
think
he says,
so.
"Oh, thank goodness, because I forgot where I'd put that." So it's like he said that he'd forgotten. He had no idea where it was, and it's only because his own trap threw a moron through the air that he located the diamonds that he was after.
None of that works, man. It's like, no, it's great. Shut up.
Aquaman does the yeah thing again.
Yeah!
Aquaman's jubilation is what clues Lisp into the ruse, so now he gets angry that they took this massive diversion that isn't even a diversion, solely in order that a guy he knows is broke and in dire straits might have a shot at saving his store. So we're into our Lisp is a arc of the movie. Their argument is saved for later though, because there's an evil noise, and that tells us that Big Gay Al has already found them somehow. He's just here now because here's where he needs to be. And I criticized the fucking spies line for being lazy and contrived. They didn't even bother coming up with a reason for this one. The Minetards try to take a mine cart to escape, but their torch goes out, and when they light it again, they find that they're surrounded by penises.
We gotta get to the Redstone rail!
Garrett, you got us into this mess. Get out and push!
Okay.
You do realize that if you all got out and pushed, this would be much faster, right? Why would you tell one person to get out and push and leave the fattest member of the team sitting in the thing that's being pushed? Anyway, it's supposed to be tense, I guess, but then they hit the next redstone rail and they shoot off, exploding penises as they go, and they all blow up Big Gay Al, so now he's dead. Already. What a terrific character. Having just had a high-octane chase sequence, it's time to sneak another dialogue scene in before people have had a chance to wake up from their comas. This is the beat where Lisp tells Aquaman that he's an evil shit for leading them into danger just to get his hands on some diamonds that might stop him becoming unemployed and homeless.
What's your problem, man? We didn't need those stupid diamonds. I swear you were literally the most selfish person I've ever met.
You guys always rip on me for having diabetes. You guys always rip on me for having diabetes. I've got Marketing.
The thing is, even if you assume the hyper-intelligent, creative, imaginative Lisp didn't know that Aquaman was broke, which I'm pretty sure he already does, it's why he offered him that $25 to bail him out from school, this rebuke still doesn't work mechanically. Lisp is one of only 2 people who are allowed to use the crafting mechanic in this world for some reason. Diamond is an insanely valuable and insanely useful resource. diamonds. There is no world where getting diamonds is a setback. It would obviously help them on their quest if they were able to craft more things with diamonds. So not only is Lisp stupid in this scene, not only is he selfish for rebuking Aquaman in this way, he's also completely lacking imagination and creativity, which is the one thing he's uniquely supposed to have.
I need them, okay? I need the diamonds because I need the money because I'm broke.
This is completely fair and correct, and Lisp needs a smack.
I'm not doing well. I'm washed up, Hank, and I'm gonna lose everything. And that's not the worst part. I'm alone.
God, I mean, I almost want to praise the movie because this is the closest it's ever going to get to a serious character beat, but it just can't sustain it.
You weren't alone. I was your friend.
I'm honestly not sure which bit of this is worse. The fact the past tense means Lisp still thinks he's right, which makes him a prick, or the fact it's referencing all of 2 scenes before the Overworld section in which they interacted at all. Aquaman has been nothing but the butt of jokes in this movie. They have nothing in common. They've not bonded. They've gained no trust. They've shared no interests. They were not friends. This is already important because the weight of this one semi-serious scene rests on work that hasn't been done, and it's going to become more important because the movie is now in the process of turning Aquaman into Aqua Han Solo. We're not quite at the point of stealing entire scenes and payoffs, that comes later, but this scene is the parallel to the beat preceding the fight against the Death Star in A New Hope, the bit where Han packs up his reward and leaves. The difference, of course, is that Luke and Han were characters. They'd become friends. The beat actually follows a frenetic escape in which they worked together to solidify their relationship. Han leaving is a check on optimism, but Luke isn't a dick to him. You can tell he's disappointed. Chewie's disappointed. Han himself knows he's letting people down. But they don't part as enemies. There's just the implicit, after all we've been through, regret. When Han does fly back in to save the day, he's accepting his role as a hero and as a friend. He's doing something he already knows is right. He's learned that some things matter more than money. But when Aquaman does the same thing later in this movie, it scans as a desperate attempt to prove to this selfish, short-sighted child that he's learned to do better. And you have to be paying attention to even detect that that's what the film has in mind, which is hard to do because everything else in the movie begs you not to pay attention to it. Anyway, they finally make it to the Woodland Mansion, and there's a pointless bickering scene where Steve tries to get them to look at a floor plan that is just conveniently spawned in front of them, but that they don't use at any point in concocting their plan. The scheme is that Steve and Aquaman will cause a distraction on the ground floor, while Lisp will build some stairs to get to the 2nd, or maybe the 3rd, I can't be fucked to check floor, where the spare Earthstone or the Mind Crystal or whatever the fuck is stored. Aquaman gives Lisp the Tesseract back, and Lisp just nags him some more because he's a It's not even the best scene for him to do this. He could have done it later, just before he makes his heroic sacrifice. That's the natural place to have him do it. In this scene, it's just an afterthought and it doesn't go anywhere. This plan actually doesn't need them to cause a diversion, and the diversion doesn't work in any case. Steve and Aquaman go in wearing silly outfits. They play a silly song to distract the goons on the ground floor, where Lisp isn't going anyway. Lisp proves he's never played Metal Gear, and his terrible sneaking ends up with him getting chased. But he runs into the Earth Crystal room, which isn't locked, obviously, because that would be inconvenient, and he shuts the door behind him. And as everybody knows, doors are super effective against axes, so shutting the doors, he's just safe now. Fair enough. The Earth Crystal room is full of chests, and I honestly thought he was going to go around gathering the materials he'd need to craft a new Earth Crystal, because, you know, the Minecraft movie? But no, he doesn't. He just goes around opening chests one by one, taking a couple of things, like an axe, but the actual Earth Crystal is already fully made, and it's just waiting for him in the last chest he checks. No sooner has he found it than he gets attacked by an Enderman, and as the movie told us earlier, these are big, bad, and dangerous. The Enderman proceeds to mind rape him.
You'll never be as cool as me, Hank. Just give up. The Overworld doesn't need you, Henry. Neither do I.
This is
Henry sees visions of people doubting him and saying mean things to him. Oh, it's like it's purple-eyed versions of Natalie and Steve and Garrett, and they're like, oh, you suck, you're not creative, you should give up, you're a loser. And then
nobody like least
Henry
favorite
snaps
scenes in
out
the
of it.
entire movie, because like none of that's been fucking earned.
No.
What are you doing? You can't now introduce this.
out of nowhere.
None of them have spoken to each other for most of the movie.
He doesn't have like an insecurity that needs to.
Is that why the Enderman, like, he's useless on him, because he's not even a character, so there's nothing to attack?
And because this hasn't been earned in any way, he immediately realizes it's total bullshit, then snaps out of the trance, swings the axe a few times, and kills the Enderman. What a terrific villain. And this gives him an Enderbollock. Remember how we set up the Enderbollock earlier? I bet that'll be incredibly important very soon. While all this has been going on, Steve and Aquaman have been dumped into a boxing ring, and Aquaman is made to face off against...
Somebody has bubbles. Oh my god. Where's an egg on the screen? Oh my god. Oh my god.
How do I reach these kids?
You know, there's probably an essay to be written about the modern event movie's reliance on ironic, mimetic behavior. That Despicable Me thing where people dressed up smart to go to the theater, the Barbenheimer phenomenon, and now the ironically exaggerated response to the Minecraft movie. My pet theory for this is that it's a meaning-seeking response to what's become an empty world. There are no stories worth seeing, so the story becomes one you make for yourself in the theater. The meme value of your own antics takes the place of the story that once engrossed you. Since the cinema is, at its heart, a temple for communal myths, the total lack of myth worth sharing leads to the audience creating their own in the empty space. It's not a response you see to any narrative-heavy movie. Just note the similarity in audience size, but the total divergence in audience reaction between Avengers Endgame and the Minecraft movie. But we haven't really had any big-budget, crowd-pleasing narrative-heavy movies since, what, 2019? An entire generation, or at least half of one, has grown up with nobody to tell them stories, so now they have to craft something memorable for themselves. Anyway, oh fuck, we're at risk of having some kind of profound realization spawned by the Minecraft movie. Let's get back to it!
Sneak attack!
Lisp smacks his way through the floor and drops into the boxing ring.
Did you get the Earth Crystal?
Yeah, I got it.
Let's get out of this hellhole!
But I do quite like the bit where he falls down, immediately stands up, holding the MacGuffin, and Jack Black says, hey, did you get the MacGuffin? And it's like right in his fucking hand.
Yeah,
you have eyes.
That was hilarious. He's standing there with the Earth Crystal prominently just there in his hand, and then Jack Black is looking at him and saying, did you get the Earth Crystal?
Oh my god.
And then Henry's just like, yeah, and because it's right there in his hand. It's just he's just got it in his hand.
Not only are the writers complete freaking idiots for writing this way, but then like we have to rely on the fact that Jack Black was actually blind that day, and then people who edited this movie are also fucking blind.
I wonder if you hit an apathy at some point with making a film like this, where you stop questioning the script and you just say what it says.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get the line. Get out of here.
You know, on set, one or more actors must have brought that up. Like, does this dialogue work? Like, I'm holding it in my hand right here, clearly visible. It's in the fucking shot, and the director's just like, "Shut up!
Shut the fuck up! My script is beautiful."
Despite being surrounded by goons, they run unopposed out onto the bridge. But oh dear, the pigs arrive, and this time Emperor Pigpatine is with them.
It's just beginning. No!
Why didn't you do this earlier? Oh no, and the pigs have brought TNT with them.
They're gonna blow this bridge sky high!
die!
He's gonna give himself a heart attack. Anyway, them being trapped on the bridge obviously isn't a problem because they've got those magic wing things, right? You know, we had an entire extended chase sequence with the magic wings earlier. Well, we've still got those, haven't we?
What?
Then Steve uses a slime cube and bounces himself onto the same balloon. But oh dear, this leaves Aquaman trapped. But it's still fine. Magic wing things. Aquaman, activate your magic wing things.
Go, Hank! Save your sister and get home!
Garrett, you don't have to do this!
Tell my...
But yes, he does. He does have to do this. It's in the script. So he's... oh, fuck it, what's the point? We all know he's not dead. I know it looks like he has to be dead. I know he's just been exploded by several tons of TNT on a bridge over a massive chasm that's just been destroyed. But has anything in this movie left you thinking, yeah, the Minecraft movie, that's a film that takes risks? Steve and Lisp escape on a pig balloon that crashes and they get knocked out, but then, oh yay, it's Dennis. Dennis wakes up Steve. Here's a funny thing. This is the one line in the theatrical cut that kind of addresses the fact that Aquaman just needlessly blew himself up because he forgot he had wings.
I wish Garbage Man was here to see this. He would have loved your mushroom hut.
Yeah.
Here is the same scene in the working cut.
You guys both made this?
Yeah, we're not messing around. We got the silk touch.
No looker.
They forgot. They just kind of forgot to mention it.
The reason why I was certain like something was wrong was because when he wakes up in the mushroom house, he's like happy, and then we're just doing the recovery for like the scenes and stuff, but there's no mention or recognition of Garrett at all. And I was like, that's weird. You'd think he would have said something. And then when they step outside and they're not facing the camera, that's the only line that relates to Garrett. And I was like, oh shit, they forgot. And that's ADR. And then I was like, but there's no way I could prove that. Except the version that's got around with everybody doesn't have that line in it because it was added later.
Oh my god.
They legit forgot to have any lines that relate to them talking about how Garrett just fucking died.
Emperor Pigpatine uses the Tesseract to make the inevitable sky laser that darkens the world. It's like 5 minutes down the road from where the Mindhardians are currently recuperating, and the world goes dim and her armies come through the portal onto this darkling plane. It's time to gear up for the epic final battle.
I'm ready. I'm done with those pigs.
Yeah, me too.
Fuck the police!
Ooh, fuck me, they really don't have much to work with, do they?
First we mine, then we craft. Let's Minecraft!
There follows a perfunctory mining montage in which the movie tries to trick you into thinking that they are making use of Lisp's creativity. It does this by showing you pages in his notebook. But this is a big fat lie, because all they're doing is crafting stuff we've already seen dotted around the world, chiefly swords and armor. Also, remember how we were told near the beginning that the journey to the Woodland Mansion was long and dangerous? Remember how most of the movie was about how long and dangerous that journey was? Well, the crafting table is all the way back in that village from earlier, so they just teleport back there for the montage. And then they teleport all the way back for the big final battle, past presumably entire hordes of enemies because the world is permanently dark now. I guess a scene where Steve just pulls a crafting table out of his ass just wasn't on the table. Get it? Oh, fuck it. Among their many creations is an army of iron golems and some boots of swiftness that they will put on one of the iron golems to distinguish it as the hero iron golem that plays an ancillary role in the battle itself. They also have to mine diamonds. Hey, remember how we just blew up the diamond mines? Well, the movie doesn't. And anyway, if they're mining diamonds, why is it only Steve who'll turn up wearing diamond armor? Who cares?
We're ready. Let's go save the overworld!
So here we are, Steve and the Mintardians of the movie and their army of iron golems versus Emperor Pigpatine, her army of pigs, and her newer ultimata weaponer, bigger, gayer Al.
Allahu Akbar!
Iron golems will not attack unless provoked.
Huh. I mean, you did just send your pigs to wipe out all of the villagers, but if that doesn't count, we could probably do something pretty interesting with this mechanic. Or not. Fair enough. Gotta get that Helm's Deep reference in there somewhere. So the battle is joined. It's mainly the hero golem versus bigger, gayer Allah, and Steve versus Emperor Pigpatine, while the kids run around pretending to be useful. Steve is in his full diamond getup and he tries his sneak attack. So now he's not in his full diamond getup anymore. Happy Black Lady and Dennis, they turn up with an army of wolves. I guess it's not relevant. Lisp shoots his enderbollock from his potato gun, and this allows him to teleport up to the Tesseract, but oh dear, it emits some kind of anti-IQ field. So while he builds a couple of steps to try and reach it, he can't quite reach it. And of course, he can't jump or build more steps because that would be too easy, and he can't just shoot the Tesseract because that would also be too easy, and he can't use his wings because we're not allowed to have those because that would be too easy, so instead he just reaches, and then he reaches, and then he gets blasted off the roof by bigger, gayer Allah. Falling.
Get this orb and go home.
Oh god, it's such a clever reference, don't you just hate it so much? So the Millennium Pig balloon thing shoots the portal structure and it collapses, and this knocks the Tesseract out of its slot and the Sky Laser is finished. I can't help but note that bigger, gayer Allah also shot the tower with an explosive weapon, and this didn't happen, but that's because, like the movie, at this point I'm just going through the motions. The hero golem beats bigger, gayer Allah. Sister catches the Tesseract, and that's pretty much it. All the little pigs, who we now know are just as capable of creativity and joy as anybody else in this world, burn horribly and die. Emperor Pigpatine doesn't burn horribly and die because we need to get some jokes. But I guess maybe she took the radical step of, wearing clothes that block out the sun. I mean, she's severely weakened, but she survives long enough to do this bit.
One more thing. Come closer.
Do you have a little knife that you're gonna try to stab me with?
No, I'm too weak.
Come on!
Wait, let me say one more thing. Come closer.
No way!
No, really, it's fine. Lean down here.
Steve and the Mintardians return to the portal. Steve tries to groom Lisp into staying on his Minecraft server.
Sure you want to go back, Henry? It won't feel like this. There you got constraints, judgments, obstacles.
It sure would have been good if we'd meaningfully seen Lisp enjoying this world, but he spent most of his time bitching at people and complaining about the danger. There's not really a debate to be had, or even a moment's hesitation on his part.
Yeah, I know. But I'm gonna go make stuff anyway.
Steve says he likes that. Lisp is a brave kid. Happy Black Lady says, oh, and by the way, I'm taking your dog. And Steve is somehow also fine with this. He sings a cringy song. But he's not going to stop her essentially expropriating his best pal. Aquaman says, I wish you'd come back with us. And it's at this point I realized the movie doesn't quite understand what's happening here. It seems to think that A, the overworld isn't real in its universe, and B, that this is a one-way trip, except that everything in the movie has told us, A, that the overworld is real in its universe, it's not a video game, it's not fake, it does exist, and then B, they can just come in and out of the portal at their leisure. More than that, they can take stuff through the portal. There's no divide between the worlds. There's absolutely nothing to stop them coming here whenever they want, making cool devices or mining thousands of tons of diamonds, and taking it back to their dimension. There's nothing to stop them taking useless junk from their dimension, bringing it here, and making it into something incredibly valuable, then taking it back to sell. The movie's under the impression this is some kind of big final choice, because its theme demands this be the case, but it isn't. It's no such thing. What are we doing?
Are you sure you don't want to come back? Why don't you bring some of that magic to the real world?
But this is the real world. I mean, it's a real world at the very least. And you know what? It's really kind of odd that the Minecraft movie's message is that playing Minecraft is basically for smelly fat cowards who contribute nothing to society so long as they're in the game that isn't even a game in this movie. I'm not sure I really like this lesson at all. It seems kind of insulting to Minecraft players and gamers generally, to be honest. And I guess it's for the best that nobody in the audience was actually paying attention. In the end, Steve does the mature, adult, non-smelly, brave thing and decides to go back to the real world as well, even though it's no more real than the world he's currently in.
Turns out, if you're brave enough, you can make the real world your overworld.
If you're brave enough. And what exactly does making the real world your overworld look like? Well, all those dreams our characters had at the beginning of the movie that didn't work. Well, except for Lisp, because he's a genius and always has been, and Sister, because they forgot to give her one of those. But all the other dreams, well, they just work now, magically. As a team, they build a best-selling arcade-style video game that revives Aquaman's store. And yeah, they totally had time to do that before the Repo Men turfed him out and expropriated all of his property. Lisp builds arcade machines and also fully functioning jetpacks that make him incredibly popular, unlike the fully functioning jetpack he made earlier in the film that didn't. Steve sings a lot because I guess that's just his dream. The movie forgets that it changed the name of the store. Here it is on the outside. Here it is on the inside. Oops! Happy Black Lady finally gets her mobile zoo off the ground, which means she's now transporting poor animals around in inhumane conditions and violating the kinds of animal welfare laws that destroyed all those traveling circuses. And Sister, well, Sister fulfills her lifelong dream that she's had for 5 minutes of opening a self-defense class, because that inexplicably is her thing now. And that's it, save for the inevitable mid-credit sequence where the villager is voiced by Matt Berry.
You see, when Marlene's Jeep Grand Cherokee ran me over, I was struck by a love so powerful, it transcended the barriers of conventional speech.
And then the post-credit sequence where Steve meets female Steve, I think its name is Alex, which sets us up for the first of a billion sequels that will all make disgusting amounts of money while driving nails into the coffin of storytelling.
Every minute knowing you has been a horror show waste of time.
Now, the basic structure of a video like this normally entails that we wrap up looking at character, world building, and theme, having exhaustively and exhaustingly gone through the plot. But if you've somehow remained sober enough to pay attention to the video thus far, you'll already know what I'm about to say. There is none. There's nothing, or well, there's almost nothing to say about any of these things because they do not exist in this movie. Minecraft has roughly half a character in it. That half of a character is Aquaman, because he is the only one with something approaching a believable difficulty at the start. He's running out of money. His life sucks. He needs more money, and he needs for his life not to suck. The missing half of his character is the half that would have come from a proper thematic through line, but in the absence of that, it never develops. Aquaman closes the film, and just like the rest of the non-characters he shares the screen with, his problems are solved by magic. Ideas that are non-viable at the beginning of the movie, mobile zoos, retro game stores, now simply work, with pretty much no bearing on anything their owners experienced in the interim. The closest the movie gets to a theme is vague power of friendship guff, coupled with the bizarre idea that creativity, never suppressed in our real world, never utilized in the Minecraft overworld, is more profitable in our real world than in the Minecraft overworld, which is also real in this movie. Minecraft is inadvertently a good example of the link between world building and theme, because it has no world building, despite that literally being the point of the game. The theme is nonsensical. There is no moral or qualitative difference between creativity in one or the other dimension, and no reason to view creativity in one as being more worthy than creativity in the other. This is because the movie's world building does not establish a difference between them. The movie attempts to force a difference into being by presenting the Mintardians' departure from the overworld as a final return from a fictional realm, but per the rules the film actually establishes, or doesn't establish, it need only be a temporary return from a parallel real world, albeit one with unfathomable wealth and the ability to realize any dream you can imagine. You can literally immanentize the eschaton, according to the Minecraft movie. Aquaman could be a diamond billionaire with a couple of hours mining and bring his haul back through the portal, which is never finally closed, even accepting the rules the film implies rather than the rules it actually creates. There is no difference in the means or the mode of creativity. Aquaman's store is made profitable by an act just as magical as making a diamond sword on the crafting table. Lisp is able to build a second jetpack, which is worthless as a reward, both because he was never prevented from making one in the first place, and because he can make cooler things in the overworld whenever he wants. The only difference to the mobile zoo is that the wolf in it is now sort of square. Steve does karaoke, which no one ever stopped him from doing to begin with. And Sister could have decided to teach self-defense at any point in her life before entering the overworld and just didn't, to make the point the movie seems to think it's making. For its theme to exist at all, the overworld has to be fictional, educational, and ultimately sacrificed. The real world has to be more real, more difficult, but ultimately more worth it. The lessons in fantasy must cost more, but be more valuable here than there. And yet, this elementary distinction escaped all of the many writers over all the many years they had to work on the movie. I don't even know why they hired writers. There's no fucking writing in it. It's incredibly easy to create a basic story for this film, and even a basic story would be more valuable than no story. We've workshopped several of these ideas throughout the video, keeping sister and brother separate, having them begin with opposite world views, yet come to a mutual understanding from their experiences in opposite worlds. Making Steve the fallen hero, either literally or figuratively, the father that the son must ultimately confront, defeat, and either redeem or outgrow. Basic hero's journey stuff doesn't have to be groundbreaking to be useful. But the thing that decided this video's title is that we're sliding down the sludge pipe into an era where the concept of the movie as a narrative art form is drowning in shit. With very few exceptions, mass entertainment, which really does matter because it is most people's primary source of art, it tells no stories. Rather than creating or even elevating and innovating on older works, cinema has become parasitic. The biggest box office draws are either increasingly tired franchise sequels, legacy sequels and reboots, or live-action remakes. And I include the two Avatar movies in this latter category, given how extraordinarily derivative they are.
It is probably notable, and I'm not sure necessarily a good thing, that though this Memorial Day is obviously so financially successful, and I imagine it will, as has been mentioned, look good even if you do account for inflation. The fact that 3 of these are basically continuity or legacy brands, one of them is a reboot, and only one of them is anything slightly original, and it's comfortably the least performing of all 3 of them.
Oh man.
Does kind of suggest that, like, this is very successful in the same way that, say, Avatar propped up the box office in 2000 and whenever the fuck that came out, 2022. But there'll be 1 or 2 really, really big ones, and in this case, it's a legacy or a franchise film, which is either exploiting a pre-existing audience because it's a remake, or exploiting a pre-existing audience because it's the last of a really long franchise, or it's a reboot of a franchise that's already got a pre-existing audience. Nothing actually new is being massively successful. Sinners is the most successful of like the new things to have come out recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's
I
a
mean,
great point.
there are films coming out that look like they're going to be amazing and original, but both Weapons and the Phoenician Scheme look incredible, but they're not going to fucking break the box office.
Yeah, that's the thing, though.
Hopefully they're going to be at least successful enough.
When are we gonna get the big movie of the year, like the $1 billion film, to be something that's fully original, not a sequel, not a franchise, not an MCU movie, not a stupid multiverse bullshit, something I've never fucking heard of. That a fantastic idea that made a whole bunch of money.
Remove these from the equation and there basically isn't a box office, and this is bad because it's indicative of late monopoly behavior. The only brands with a chance of making money at the cinema are owned by the biggest and laziest members of the Ancien regime, and their success props up these old, lazy, big corporations which no longer have an ounce of creative energy in them. The reason they got big to begin with has left them. All they can do now is exploit their power and their influence and their monopoly hold on the industry to remain on life support just another year at a time. The newest movie type is the video game adaptation, which has pretty much done the speed run on quality dives because these studios have already, just 2 years after the Mario movie's tokenistic gesture at storytelling, decided that storytelling isn't worth it. It's a pointless expense. Much as with the live-action remake, the calculation is that the audience for a popular video game is taken for granted, since there's no way they won't come and see the Minecraft movie. Just as there was no way the kids wouldn't go and see Lilo and Stitch, the Minecraft movie does nothing to earn their money. This is, definitionally, parasitic behavior. To say it does a disservice to the games being leached from is an understatement. The reason games earned this loyal fanbase is that they did create, they did make characters, they did build worlds, they did tell stories. I'm tremendously fortunate to be in a writer's room for an upcoming video game, and the creativity is the sole enriching thing. It will also be the thing that determines whether this game is a success. It would have been tremendously easy for us to say, well, yeah, we could just reskin BioShock again and make a few quid. But because the assumption is we have to earn our audience, because the desire is to build something new and worthwhile, something that will hopefully add to the wonderful library of stories that games already provide, our goal is precisely the opposite. And it's this sort of thinking that has sustained games and allowed that industry to grow almost exponentially. Because there are fewer barriers to entry for upcoming video game writers and developers and designers, because the industry is altogether more dynamic, you see more flux, you see more creative destruction. Where an old video game studio seems to be going the way of an old movie studio, something more reliably arises to replace it. Just look at the story of Exposition 33, created by a bunch of bored Ubisoft developers, while Ubisoft itself struggles, not least because it makes so many of its staff so very bored. A studio system with any interest in longevity might consider why it is that games are now bigger than movies and have been for some time. They might ask why some of their biggest prospective earners are leeching off of stories made in that particular industry. Success is worth emulating, but that is qualitatively different from the behavior of the parasite. The parasite sucks the corpse dry, but it cannot ultimately sustain itself. Once it's had its fill, once the host has been exploited to the point of death, the parasite too will die. And that would be my prediction for the future of the video game adaptation and the studio that comes to rely too heavily upon it. The studio will dine well the first time. Mario made $1 billion. Minecraft made close enough to be depressing. The second time will be a decent meal, but it will be less filling. The third time will be less filling still. The fourth time will be meager fare. At the end, there'll be nothing left, because nothing was made to begin with. The parasite must die or move on to a new host. But since it cannot create, no one benefits from its survival. We can carry on doing this, that's fine. Leave it to the gamers to make the stories. Fuck it, it's more work for me, I'm not complaining. But movies have always been one of the best, if not the best, means of creating a collective culture. A vast number of everyone's favorite stories come from film. Not mega-budget, big-name franchise film, but bold, innovative, risk-taking film. The kind of thing that made what are now the biggest movie studios in the first place. We can return to that, and I've got enough faith in the business cycle to believe that one day we will, but we can save ourselves a lot of time, a lot of pain, and even a lot of jobs if we treat the Minecraft movie as the nadir and not the goal of movie making. TLDR, do better, you talentless fucks. Lots of love, bye!